If this tiny piece of plastic breaks, it will destroy your engine and total your car.
There are a ton of cars that suffer from catastrophic failures. So today, we're gonna take a look at a few that you should avoid and which ones are worth the risk. Starting with this Toyota GR86. This thing's sweet, dude. It's got TE37s, paint looks sick, and it's like a little bit lowered. Ugh. I like the paint too. The red looks really hot, but it does have some downfalls.
And what would that be, Jimbo?
Hop in the car, let's find out.
All right.
Oh, Jimmy! Whoa! I like it, it's perfect. There is a problem with these cars though.
What's that?
From the factory, they might have put a little too much RTV on the oil pan.
Like the sealant?
Yes. RTV is a silicone sealant that bonds surfaces together within your engine. In other words, it's a goop that turns into a gasket. And Toyota uses RTV to seal the 86's oil pan. Normally, this isn't a problem. The problem is how the RTV is applied. According to many GR86 owners, the RTV is applied a little too liberally in the factory.
Liberal?
If too much RTV is applied, the excess RTV can squeeze out into the insides of the oil pan like a big old RTV booger. Over time, those boogers can become dislodged, which can clog the oil pickup tube, preventing the oil pump from drawing enough oil and eventually leading to oil starvation. When an engine runs too long without oil, the consequences can be a total catastrophic engine failure. In 2022, a GR86 owner ran into this exact issue and needed a whole new engine after driving in an autocross event. To make it worse, his car only had 13,000 miles on it and the engine was unmodified. Toyota quoted him 11 grand for a replacement since it wasn't covered by warranty because it was used on a track. A lot of people were pissed off about this because Toyota provides a complimentary track day to a new GR86 owner. Now the cost to prevent it is roughly around $500 to $1,000 for one of these aftermarket oil pans, or you could just get under the car, drop the oil pan yourself, and put on your own oil-sealed gasket.
Hey man, I heard that you were racing your car that was built for racing and that we even had an autocross like sort of track day. What's that? You blew up your engine doing something that the car was meant to do? Get the f out of here. What?
He broke my tooth.
Oh, did you? Mm-hmm. Oh, f***. No, it's no one's fault. It's just wrong place, wrong time. So, Tristan, what do you think about the GR86? Is it worth it or not?
Yeah, I think it's worth it. It's a good car. Just, you know, take it to a third-party dealer, have them inspect the oil pickup tube. You know, easy. Next up, we got this here Rivian R1T. Now, this was the first electric pickup truck to hit American streets, even before the Cybertruck, the Hummer EV, or the Ford Lightning. So, this was your only option, and to be honest, it's not bad.
Then why are we talking about it?
I will tell you. But besides being electric, there's a pretty big difference between this and most pickup trucks. It has a unibody construction instead of body on frame. You see, most trucks have their body and bed mounted on a rigid ladder frame, which is more durable, can carry more weight, but the setup can be heavy, very heavy, and since electric vehicles are already thousands of pounds heavier than gas vehicles, Rivian opted instead for a unibody construction. This is where they take the body and frame and make it one piece. So this can be good for a lot of reasons. Unibodies are lighter and more rigid, which improves your handling and safety.
EVs have that like torque to back them up. That is the one thing that makes them super fun, is the that instant torque feeling.
3, 2,
blast off! Dude, whoa. That's crazy. And dude, like, you feel your like, you're like fluids in your body.
But it also means that when damage happens, and if it's severe enough, it will infect the entire vehicle. And trucks get damaged a lot. So in 2023, a Rivian owner got into a minor fender bender and was hit with a price tag of $42,000.
$42,000? Uh-oh.
In a typical truck, you'd probably opt to just replace the entire bed, or you wouldn't care because it's a truck. But in a unibody vehicle like the Rivian, structural integrity can be severely affected in incidents like this, which drastically escalates the cost of repair. So all in all, the insurance company surveyed the damage and decided that the entire unit panel needed to be replaced, which is a long and expensive process involving the removal of a ton of stuff. And not many shops specialize in Rivians, so finding a body shop that would even touch one of these can be super hard. And to add insult to injury, these trucks are depreciating fast, and pretty soon that $40,000 repair bill will exceed the value of the truck.
If there's anything I hate, it's a car that depreciates, or a truck.
Bro, that's all of them. Luckily, the owner of this Rivian was able to hire a paintless dent removal expert to fix the dent for just 1/10 of the cost of the estimate. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that most other owners aren't gonna have the same luck.
Dude, I hope that owner left a really good Google review. So, Rivian R1T, is it worth it? Nah. Now, if you think that's bad, losing your entire engine is a lot worse. So if you own a 2008 to 2015 Volkswagen or Audi with a 1.8 or 2-liter TSI engine, you might want to pay attention.
So cars with this engine, I'm talking about the GTIs, Jettas, Passats, Audi A4s, they all suffer from this same problem, and that's issues with the chain tensioner.
This guy.
So, the timing chain is responsible for synchronizing the rotation between the camshaft and the crankshaft. This timing needs to be very precise so that your valves open and close at the right time in relation to the movement of the piston. So, most cars use a timing chain tensioner to make sure the chain stays tight for accurate timing. However, these TSI engines experience chain stretch over time, and the tensioners are not able to compensate. So no tension means you got yourself a floppy chain, and that can lead to misaligned teeth, completely throwing off your timing and sending your valves directly into the path of your piston. Oof. The best case scenario here is your valves get destroyed and you need to pull the head and replace everything. The worst case, the valves smash open the piston and send chunks of the piston directly into the engine block, seizing your entire motor. This is absolute catastrophic failure.
That's a lot of money.
That's a bad day.
That is a big repair bill.
Yeah. The timing tensioner isn't the only weak point with these engines. There's also a guide rail that keeps the timing chain in line with the sprocket that can fail over time. And that's because it's made of plastic!
So they use this same plastic in all parts of the engine, right? In an engine where it gets hot. I just don't feel like this is like strong enough.
No, repeated changes in temperature, the friction alone, this is a poorly designed part. So when this fails, the same result can occur. Considering these cars are worth less than like 10K these days, that's a pretty high price.
Yeah. I don't know, do you think it's worth it?
Yeah, just replace it with billet parts.
For me, I'm gonna say it's not worth it.
Really?
Yeah.
But you can just replace it.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of money. But you know what's worse than engine failure? Dying! That's what's worse. The 2005 to 2010 Chevy Cobalt faced a massive recall due to faulty ignition switches. It was found that the ignition switches could turn off inadvertently while driving. Maybe because it got bumped by the driver's knee, maybe the guy had too many anime keychains and his key fell out. But either way, the car would turn off, meaning no power steering, no power brakes, and also no airbags. Obviously, this was a very serious situation, and to make things worse, GM knew about the issue for almost a decade before issuing any sort of recall. They claimed the incident rate was very low with no growing trend, but in reality, 124 deaths and 275 injuries were linked to these defective ignition switches. It wasn't until 2014 that GM finally issued a recall which affected 700,000 Cobalts.
It's a lot of Cobalts.
GM has since been the target of numerous lawsuits and has set aside $400 million for settlement claims. 15 employees were fired, and GM was fined $35 million for failing to report and remedy the issue earlier. Scary stuff, dude. Imagine this happened to you on the 405.
Mortifying.
Yeah. If you're going 75 miles per hour and everything just shuts off.
Yeah. You better hope there's not a car in front of you. You guys probably love cars, which is why you're watching this video, but like, life can get scary really fast, dude.
Yeah.
So, the Cobalt.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
Nah, not for me.
Nah, dude. This next issue isn't quite as bad as dying, but it is definitely very, very annoying. I'm talking about a broken convertible top that can affect Fiat 500 cabrios. So imagine this, you're cruising down the Pacific Coast Highway in your Fiat 500 Abarth. Ooh. You've got coilovers, a short shifter, and a nasty
breeze in the air.
Yes, sir.
Oh, feels great.
Naturally, you want to put the top down so you can feel that sweet Cali breeze up in your flow, but suddenly you realize it's raining, and you want to put that top back up.
California?
Yeah. You press that button, nothing happens. Instead you hear a loud pop, and guess what? Your convertible top looks like this. Guess what, Hotshot? You're out $7,000. That's because your entire top mechanism needs to be replaced, and it is stuck open until you do.
Yo.
This happened to our good friend and creative director Max right here at Donut. He bought a Fiat 500 Abarth a few years ago, and it was only 2 weeks out of warranty when the top failed. So what happened? Unlike regular convertibles, the Fiat 500 still has its B and C pillar along with the roof lines, but the soft top slides down the roof, folding itself up kind of like a shower curtain as it goes.
Weird.
So what happened in Max's case is these plastic sliders simply broke and the roof wasn't able to slide up anymore. You'd think you could just replace one clip and everything would be fine, right? Of course, that's how it always goes. In reality, the entire mechanism failed because of one broken piece, and he was quoted $7,000 to replace
Jesus.
all of
I feel like that's what Fiat 500 Abarth is worth now, right?
Yeah. You know what Fiat stands for?
Fix it again, Tony.
Yes, sir. If you own one of these, there really isn't anything more you can do other than making sure the rails are lubricated and clean, and you pray it just doesn't happen to you.
Do you think that the Fiat 500 Cabriolet is worth it, little puppers?
No!
Speaking of lubrication issues, the next vehicle we're talking about is the Land Rover Discovery 2, specifically from 1998 to 2004, a car known for being extremely reliable and holding its value. Just kidding, that was a lie. You can buy these for like $3,000 and they break all the time. On the surface, these older Land Rovers are pretty sweet looking and capable off-roaders. They came with high ground clearance, good suspension articulation, full-time four-wheel drive, and some had locking center differentials. There's also a healthy aftermarket for these. However, due to these vehicles being included in this video about catastrophic failures, there's something you should probably be aware of, and that's slipped cylinder sleeves. The V-heads that came in the Discovery 2 were made of aluminum, which is lightweight and easier to machine than, say, cast iron. But one downside with aluminum is that it expands and contracts much more than other metals. And over the course of an engine's life, it can begin to warp after seeing too many heat cycles. This warpage can cause cylinder sleeves to crack or worse, slip out of position. The result of a slipped sleeve is similar to a blown head gasket. Coolant will mix with combustion gases, which causes overheating and truly an awful sound that you would never want to hear. Once you slip a sleeve, there's nothing that can be done except replacing the block. That's insane. With these Land Rovers, this issue generally happens around the 100K mile mark, but some owners have experienced slipped sleeves at only half that mileage. Luckily, there is a DIY remedy to prevent this that involves drilling into your engine block and inserting pins in to secure the cylinder sleeves into place. This is not worth it.
No.
I would never pick up an old Land Rover just for this. Dude, there's a reason that Land Rover was the villain in Cars 2. He like leaked oil everywhere, remember?
Oh, yeah.
This next vehicle has not one, not two, but three major issues that need to be addressed to avoid grenading the car. If you own a BMW E46 M3, you're probably familiar with the Big Three, not to be confused with our podcast, The Big Three, available wherever podcasts are found. The E46 M3 is one of the most desirable 3 Series BMWs ever for a lot of reasons, but it also has a lot of issues. The first major one is the rear subframe, which supports the suspension and the differential, which in my opinion are important parts of the car. The problem? The subframe has a tendency to crack in half, and in some cases rip apart the chassis. The main reason for this failure is that the rear subframe is mounted with spot welds. During hard driving, the sheet metal flexes and twists, which can break the welds and eventually weaken the metal to the point of cracking and separating from the chassis.
That blows.
Ooh, a total subframe failure can mean nearly $5,000 in repair bills. But to avoid this, you'll still need to cough up around $1,500 to install a subframe reinforcement kit, or do it yourself. You can weld. But that's only issue number one. The other two involve the engine. One of those involves the Vanos system, which is BMW's variable valve timing system. Vanos has a bunch of different failure points, and when it fails, it means power loss, worse MPGs, cold start issues, and throttle hesitation. The cost to repair this is typically around $2,000, but the worst issue of all is rod bearing failure. Rod bearings hold the connecting rods and crankshaft in place as the engine rotates. And on the M3's S54 engine, these bearings have very tight clearances that can cause oiling issues when there's not enough lubrication. So what is a spun rod bearing, Tristan?
Rod bearings are pretty interesting because it's literally just like a half circle piece of metal that just sits in between the carrier and the crank.
And that has to be lubricated at all times.
There's like a little galley in it that's sort of carved out so that way oil can stick and you know, lubricate as it should.
Right.
Usually it's just the torque and the weight of the crank and everything tightened down on it keeps it pretty much into place. There's also some notches, but it can just go with the rotation of the engine, goes boop, and just slip out.
It's fun.
Not a good way to go
Not way
out.
to get a new repair bill. It's recommended that you replace the rod bearings every 100,000 miles to avoid this happening to you. A shop will charge you around $1,800 for this job, and you don't want to know how much an S54 costs if you do need to replace the engine. So if you're thinking about getting an E46 M3 that hasn't gotten the big 3 done to it, get ready to drop over $5,000 into repair bills to make sure you don't end up spending a lot more. Do you think this is worth it?
Absolutely.
I think this is worth it.
E46 M3.
Yep, and they're gonna just go up in price, and they look cool, they sound cool, they drive amazing. Yeah, I think this is worth it all around.
All right, y'all, the next car we're gonna be talking about is the Porsche 911. And that's very personal to me because I just picked one up and it's a piece of garbage.
What? What generation is it?
It's a 997, 2008.
Oh.
And it is afflicted with a problem known as bore scoring.
Ah! Get it away from me!
So this model, the 3.8 as well as the 3.6, are plagued with a problem called bore scoring. So bore scoring is what happens when vertical lines develop on your cylinder walls, leading to premature engine failure and potentially catastrophic engine failure. So one side of the engine develops bore score before the other, and it's usually the right side, and that's because the right side runs a lot hotter than the left. And this is because of the design, the systems they designed for the cooling and lubrication. So the biggest contributor though comes down to the materials that they use. The scratches on the cylinder walls can eventually compromise the seal between the piston rings and cylinder, and once those combustion gases start getting past the rings, it gets in your oil's contaminated, you're gonna start losing compression, and debris from the scoring can recirculate and act like a nasty virus, just infecting every little bit of your engine.
That's horrible.
And it's all due to cost-saving measures taken with the liner material.
Why is Porsche cutting corners? They
That's it.
have the money.
That's an excellent question. It didn't affect every 997. Specifically, the turbo ones very rarely get bore scoring, if at all.
Why is that?
They use a different liner material called Nicosil,
Nicosil.
as opposed to the non-turbo models, which got Locasil.
Locasil.
And it's quite weak. So the minute you start getting deposits in either through your intake, your dirty oil,
You're getting carbon on, like, build up there and stuff.
it's just grinding it off.
Damn.
And once that coating gets ground off, your rings are no longer creating a great seal. So all those gases get through and it's awful. There's ways that you can help combat it. Like the biggest thing is you shouldn't take short drives, you shouldn't rev your engine up while it's cold, and you should always be on top of changing your oil.
Dude, why did you buy this? Is it even worth it? No, really?
In my case, and I think in certain other people's cases it could be, but specifically for me, I'm planning on doing a pretty extensive build series with this car. Where
Okay.
just about everything's gonna get touched, and that's gonna be on Donut's social media channels, and it's gonna be a vibe. It's gonna piss off a lot of purists.
It's gonna be a little different.
It's gonna be a GT freak.
Thank you guys for watching everything here on Donut. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one.
We're gonna keep making stupid financial decisions.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy another car right now.